Thanks, everybody. I'm George Randolph. I'm from Technosylva. Before I go to the next slide, just some background on Technosylva. We're a software company. We've been around for about 30 years, founded in Spain. We provide wildfire spread modeling, mostly to electric utilities, especially in the last, say, 15 years. We've developed this proprietary fire spread simulation engine that powers a lot of our products. Our investor-owned utility customers use our products to help understand, especially in an operational setting, when to potentially de-energize electric lines under situations where they might need to instigate public safety power shutoffs, or PSPSs. But I'm going to go through an update that our science team has been developing on our urban encroachment or urban conflagration model. But that was just a little background on Technosylva and who we are. We've got a kind of a brick and mortar presence, or actually right here in La Jolla. A lot of our science and engineering and fire science teams are based in Spain. Our go-to-market and product teams are based in the U.S. So we've got a good global presence. But I'm kind of the representative from industry. I'm the person who has to look up the difference between deductible and premium. So this is going to be very kind of science focused. But here's the agenda real quick. Just want to go through sort of the current state of what Technosylva's current modeling is how that works and what it kind of struggled with in the LA fires. And then I'll go through the updates to this urban spread model, some validation, and then we'll have the panel discussion, and then I think everybody will be free to go. We won't need to go through this. A lot of the presentations this morning went through all of this, especially Steve's presentation was great. I'm going to refer to this as the urban encroachment model because it's hard for me to say conflagration. I always have to pause for the pronunciation. So when I say encroachment, that's just my brain using that synonym. The last thing I do want to highlight is that Technosylva has access to a proprietary data set called FireGuard. And this is a Department of Defense data set that was actually developed to detect incoming intercontinental ballistic missiles. It's a satellite-based data feed, and turns out that fire footprints have kind of the same heat footprint as ICBMs. So this satellite detection system we have access to, and it provides near real-time detection of on-the-ground fires. So as fires are detected from FireGuard, literally polygons on a map will display, and they populate as the fire kind of moves. And we've got information about how we can take those polygons and the timestamps that they come in. We can calculate the rate of spread of those fires, and we archive all of this information to validate our models. So this very valuable treasure trove of data really helps drive and validate the developments that we continue to make and improve with our fire spread modeling. So FireGuard is a really critical component in our operational applications and software solutions that our utility customers use, as well as CAL FIRE and some other public agencies. So to set the stage, as has already been done, the last dozen years, there's been, California alone has experienced more than 90 wildfires, and most of these wildfires have, resulted in structures that have had, at least 10 structures were burned or destroyed or damaged. And this basically increasing issue is what prompted us to kind of understand and look at what's next. And actually in the WUI, almost 50% of the threatened kind of WUI environment is actually on the East Coast. We did some analysis recently for a customer advisory board, and just looking across the whole country, there is much more, I think, underappreciated fire risk on the East Coast. A lot of the attention, deservedly so, gets focused on the West Coast, but on the East Coast, that the risk is not to be undersold. The current Technosylva model that we were using up until the LA fires of last January, the fire spread model is on the what is that? That's on the left. That's just an animation of one of our fire spread simulations in the Altadena area, and on the right you can see a satellite view of the actual burned area of that area of Los Angeles. And it doesn't take a rocket scientist to see that our initial spread modeling vastly underpredicted the encroachment into the urban core. So this was a huge motivating factor for us to, as a company, to take stock and try to understand why did our fire spread modeling and frameworks so underpredict encroachment into these urban areas, and understanding why, or not understanding why these complex dynamics of fire behavior and density, built in these environments. Why did our current model not address this? So again, kind of preaching to the choir here. A couple of factors that drive this urban encroachment. There are key variables, how we classify the WUI, the building properties, there's weather conditions, but in terms of the encroachment model, our kind of updated model incorporates direct flame contact, thermal radiation, convection, and spotting. We kind of separate the physics around those things, but those are sort of the key drivers for urban encroachment that we wanted to focus on. And the first and kind of primary factor input to this model is what we call a building loss factor. It's dynamic, and it's a machine learning model, and that basically is able to statistically represent the likelihood that a building is going to be destroyed if a fire reaches it. And some of the key inputs to this dynamic building loss factor come from that CAL FIRE DINS data set that we discussed in the morning. That's a critical data set that we use in terms of vulnerability. And looking at all these different historical fires in California, we looked at upwards of 130 historical fires, upwards of almost 180,000 buildings from that data set. So we trained our kind of enhanced encroachment model on that data set. And then looking at how to improve these encroachment estimates in terms of rate of spread and ember exposure, and how we kind of calibrate all of that to update this model. And like I said, this building loss factor, it's dynamic. It's dynamic with weather and fuels. Weather and fuels, especially weather, is a very dynamic, critical input to this phenomenon, and accounting for that in this building loss factor is critical. And most importantly, again, because I'm coming from industry, this building loss factor corresponds to a key metric that our customers care about. Our utility customers care mostly about structures, not the specific, say, fire parameter, the number of acres burned, but how many buildings would be potentially impacted, during a fire, during an event. So categorizing the impacts in terms of these sort of economic drivers and parameters that our customers care about is another critical element to this model. A couple other model inputs. We're looking at, we've got this distance factor, this encroachment distance factor, which is really interesting because under certain conditions, especially of low wind and relatively high humidity, encroachment kind of stops. So looking at where that tipping point is with wind speed and humidity. Again, we've got access to that FireGuard data set of all those historical fire events and associated metadata with those events. So being able to quantify that in conjunction with a bunch of historical weather data that Technosylva has, we can pair those two together and look at the correlations between those two to see kind of at what point the wind speeds really drive the urban encroachment into these urban areas. And then we've got a roads adjustment factor. So depending on the fuel loading and how wide these roads are, roads can actually serve as fire breaks and slow the fire down. But if the roads are surrounded by burnable fuel, like in the case of the Marshall Fire, ember spotting may happen and the fire continue to spread. But looking at how these roads intersect and interact with the urban environment is a critical input to the encroachment model as well. So, yeah.
You mean 6% or 60%?
6%, yeah, 6%. So it's very, very low, very, very low humidity is that kind of like tipping point. So with validation, we've done extensive validation for this model. Admittedly, it's about 12 months old because it's in response to the events that happened in LA. But for the purposes of this discussion, I wanted to highlight these three example fires to go through some preliminary validation results. So you can see this graph, the axes are a little hard to read. The vertical is wind speed, and then the horizontal is encroachment distance. So I kind of cherry-picked three examples on purpose. We've got the Eaton and the Palisades fire because the Eaton, those two fires are, almost off the charts. I mean, the Eaton fire is like literally off the charts. The Marshall fire that I picked in the middle sort of represents at the time, kind of normal fire behavior in terms of like wind speed and encroachment. So the point being is that as we fine-tune this encroachment model, looking to make sure that we're not just overcorrecting our existing fire spread model to the events far on the right of the graph. We want to make sure that when we update our fire spread engine for our customers, it's not just overfitting to these extremes on this curve, but that the existing past events that sort of fallen within the normal bounds of what we expect at the time with regards to encroachment at wind speed, it still fits. So with these three examples, two kind of extreme, one sort of normal, we can summarize a handful of different validation metrics. And so this table is divided into two sections. We've got buildings threatened and buildings damaged. And what we're doing is comparing an observed 8-hour period from each of these fires and then simulating that same 8-hour period. So I want to underscore that this is not comparing an 8-hour simulation with the entirety of the actual real event, which, it is an apples to apples comparison in terms of temporal resolution and duration. So you can see the Eaton fire, the Marshall fire, and the Palisades fire kind of summarized below. And the point being is that you want these numbers to kind of, align. And you can see that the buildings threatened with regards to the Marshall fire, our encroachment model a little underestimated the threatened amount a bit. 1,400 buildings were threatened and observed, and we overestimated that slightly. But the buildings damaged portion of the table, right, is the portion of the validation that is most important to our customers. And so that's the portion of the table that we want to really make sure that we're hitting. And you can see that with all of those events, the updated encroachment model is doing a fairly good job matching what was simulated and what was observed. The Marshall fire, we overestimated two of the three events that we picked. But the point being is that this destroyed portion of the validation exercises, the thing that we were more laser focused on ensuring the model was adhering to. And again, this is just 3 of the 132 fires that we performed extensive validation against. But again, I wanted to highlight these to show that we weren't just overcorrecting to the tails of the sample data in the previous graph. So with that, here's an animation kind of to reflect back. So again, the original model you can see on the extreme left, the existing kind of urban encroachment in the middle, and then the updated fire spread model on the right, taking into account again that building loss factor, that encroachment distance, all those other adjustment factors that we were able to create. You can see just from this sort of animation alone, the updated encroachment model does proceed much more deeply into the Altadena area as compared to what happened in reality. So things I want to call out, again, at Technosylva, we've got, the company's been around for 30 years. Most of the staff have PhDs in either meteorology or fire spread science. The vast majority of our workforce is of a technical nature, but we are here to balance between providing the best and most up-to-date fire spread modeling based on what has happened in real life, and delivering that to our customers so that they are able to operationalize the best accepted science and technology that's available. So it's that balance between over analyzing and over developing a model that ensuring that perfect is not the enemy of the good. So in less than 12 months, our science team was able to develop and validate and operationalize a new model, and we're actually piloting this with a couple of our large investor-owned utility customers in California in the next few months. And so just wanted to underscore that, this is kind of par for the course for Technosylva. We want to continue to be that standard bearer, pushing the science forward, adapting as, unfortunately the events on that graph continue to move to the right, but then also enabling our customers to have the best science and tools and decision-making ability so that public safety is always at the top of mind and always ensured, and then also continuing to enhance the fire science space with the latest research and technology and development. So with that, the only kind of things to continue doing is that the science team is focused on improving the fuel loading rather than just statistically kind of parameterizing the fuels into these different discrete fuel types. Looking at batch modes to help expedite validation and leveraging that fire simulation engine that we've developed to really push that validation, velocity forward. Looking at improving the grassland ecosystem improvements and looking to how to better tune the grassland fuel loadings, and then improving the building data sets. So leveraging updates to that DINS data set, and then looking to other players in industry that have access to higher fidelity building data as well. So always looking to partner with other players in the space to increase the fidelity of our modeling capabilities. But just wanted to underscore that again, in less than a year, we were able to take a catastrophic event that happened, assess how our models performed, understand where that model was lacking, and develop a new engine to better simulate those sorts of events so that in the future, if and when they do occur, our customers will be all the more better prepared to deal with those sorts of catastrophic situations. So with that, I think that's it.